Hey guys, Saxy here with a brand new video for you guys. This one's gonna be a bit different. So welcome to I Simulated F1 23 for 10 seasons with adding Toro Rosso back to the roster. So I've seen a bunch of videos of people doing this thing and I kind of wanted to do it myself. I did mess up a couple of things with design wise, like making certain things, and just there was some issues. I mean, it's understandable for the first time, but let's go ahead and get into this. For our first season, for the end of 2023, unlike the real life one, Max Verstappen does not win the championship. Lewis Hamilton takes the top spot with George Russell only 3 points behind him, meaning Mercedes is the driver's championship and the team championship, with Verstappen and Perez coming third and fourth, with Vettel and Vessi, however you say his name. I'm not gonna look all this up. I'm not. Either way, an 8th place finish for Vettel with 2 wins and 4 podiums, with joining Toro Rosso, and Vesti 22nd, 0 points. As we move on to the driver changes in the offseason, Hamilton ends up retiring, leaving a free spot for Norris to join Mercedes. And in the spot of him, Valtteri Bottas joins McLaren, and Daniel Ricciardo joins Alfa Romeo. And in his spot, Kevin Magnussen jumps over to AlphaTauri, meaning Vessi, being fired from Toro Rosso, joins Haas, with Logan Sargent joining Toro Rosso. With Hulkenberg also leaving Haas, he joins Williams, with Liam Lawson joining the F1 grid. For the 2024 season, Fernando Alonso, with 10 wins and 17 podiums, is your world champion, making him a 3-time world champion. Sadly, because of how bad Lance Stroll is with only getting 97 points, Aston Martin loses the Constructors' Championship to Mercedes. With a major regulation change, all 3 teams for Red Bull have a huge drop-off. Red Bull isn't even in the top 10 in points. Vettel only scoring 3 points the entire season, Sargent scoring 0 points. As we move to the off-season, once again our reigning champion Fernando Alonso retires. Hulkenberg joins Aston Martin, meaning Carlos Sainz jumps ship over to Williams after the end of 2024. Meaning George Russell, being the wrong Mercedes, this would have been Lewis in real life, jumps over to Ferrari, joining Leclerc. Perez jumps ship from Red Bull over to Mercedes to join Norris, and Charles Leclerc joins Verstappen on Red Bull. And Drugovich fills out the field, joining Ferrari. And halfway through the season, Drugovich is dropped, and Pourchaire takes his spot in Ferrari. For the 2025 season, the end, Lando Norris is your world champion over his teammate Sergio Perez, so Mercedes once again is on top. McLaren ends up getting the 2nd spot with Piastri and Bottas, both getting wins and a good amount of podiums. Stroll ends up picking up the pace this season with 2 podiums, 0 wins, but a lot more points than what he had the following season. Verstappen and Leclerc both make the top 10 for Red Bull, making them the 3rd constructor, outdoing Aston Martin. Vettel and Sargent both score a win, so they respectively much better from the last season. And AlphaTauri finally falls down to the bottom as we move into the off-season again. As Vettel has retired, in his spot, he has asked for Mick Schumacher to take his spot in the team. Also retiring was Valtteri Bottas. Lance Stroll takes his spot at McLaren, meaning Hauger joins Aston Martin. And also, Pourchaire is outed of his ride, and Vesti takes his spot, and Drugovich joins Haas in the spot of Vessi. But Vessi was also outed of his Ferrari ride halfway through the season and replaced by Pierre Gasly. And who takes this spot? Yuki Tsunoda joins Alpine, leaving the Red Bull family. And Zhou Guanyu takes his spot in AlphaTauri, meaning Hülkenberg leaves Aston Martin and joins Ricciardo in Alfa Romeo. Meaning Liam Lawson leaves Haas for the free ride at Aston Martin, with Vessi finally finding his spot back in the Haas. For the 2026 standings, Sergio Perez finally picks up the pace and wins the championship by 4 points over Lando Norris. Piastri third, Leclerc and Verstappen behind, Russell and Gasly right behind them, and then there comes Stroll in 8th place. Sargent ends up scoring 1 podium with 98 points, making him 10th in the standings, and Schumacher only scores 8th. With a total of 20 wins amongst the drivers for Mercedes, meaning they win the Constructors' Championship by a mile. Nobody was close. But we're going to go ahead and move into the next season, with Norris leaving his team of Mercedes, going over to AlphaTauri, taking out Zhou Guanyu, and Verstappen joining Mercedes after Norris's leave. Zhou Guanyu ends up joining Red Bull in Norris's spot, or what was Verstappen's spot, and Stroll moves back to Aston Martin. Daniel Ricciardo comes back to Mercedes for the first time in a couple years. And Kevin Magnussen and Hülkenberg are reunited, but now, instead of being at Haas, they are now at Alfa Romeo, with Duhan taking the new spot open in AlphaTauri. Halfway through the season, Zhou and Norris swap spots, so Zhou moves back down to AlphaTauri. Norris gets promoted to be teammates with Charles Leclerc. And for the end of the 2027 season, Max Verstappen is able to win his 3rd title finally over his teammate Sergio Perez by almost 100 points. So a very dominant season for Max Verstappen, collecting 11 wins by himself and 17 podiums, which is insane. But for our team, Toro Rosso, Sargent ends up getting 9th with 2 podiums, and Schumacher gets 1 win, and it's 1 podium with 50 points, scoring him a 13th place in the standings. And for the off-season, we have 2 drivers retiring, of Carlos Sainz and Hülkenberg. They both retire, leaving 2 open spots in the roster. Drugovich ends up taking the free spot in Williams after Sainz's retirement, meaning Hager finally comes back to F1 in Haas, with Pourchaire also taking the final spot in Alfa Romeo. For the 2028 season, Logan Sargent is the world champion. With 8 wins and 11 podiums, he outdoes Verstappen in the final race to win the championship by 10 points over Verstappen. Once again, Perez letting down the team, which is going to slowly become a trend. Red Bull ends up becoming the constructor champion, with Mercedes 2nd and Toro Rosso in 3rd. And Schumacher once again only scores 1 win, but now has 63 points and got 3 podiums throughout the season. Yuki Tsunoda makes an appearance in 11th now. Drugovich is making his way up the points. Other notable things is McLaren and Ferrari are still right next to each other in the point standings. No driver changes in between the next season. Everybody was happy for what team they had, meaning for 2029 all there was a regulation change, and that regulation change made it where Max Verstappen and Mercedes was able to get the championship over Logan Sargent. Verstappen ended up with a whopping 10 wins and 17 podiums over Sargent's 3 wins and 11 podiums. Leclerc and Norris also got 3 wins apart, and we did pretty well for Red Bull to end up getting the Constructors' Championship again, with Perez finishing P11 with 72 points, so another letdown from Perez for Mercedes, with Schumacher ended up scoring 0 points this season. As we move into the following season, Pierre Gasly ends up retiring. And Oscar Piastri takes his spot and leaves McLaren, joining Ferrari. Lance Stroll makes his way back over to McLaren again, meaning Alexander Albon jumps ship over to Aston Martin. Daniel Ricciardo sees Stroll join the team that he's a part of and went, nah, I'm good. He ends up joining Williams with Drugovich, and Iwasa ends up joining McLaren. And also, one final change, Schumacher was outed for scoring 0 points from Toro Rosso and is replaced with Pietro Fittipaldi joining Toro Rosso alongside Logan Sargent, still with his 1 championship. Halfway through the season, Iwasa is outed from his ride in McLaren, and Verstappen leaves his team of Mercedes to join McLaren while fighting for the championship. Also at the same time, Leclerc takes that final spot from Mercedes, and Stroll jumps over to Red Bull, meaning Perez jumps over to McLaren with Verstappen, and Iwasa finds himself at home in McLaren. For the end of the 2030 season, Logan Sargent is back on top with 4 wins and 13 podiums, which is insane. He's able to outscore Verstappen with 6 wins and 10 podiums. Leclerc ends up getting 3rd. And as you go down the order, Fittipaldi also scores a win and 2 podiums with the 55 points, already outdoing his predecessor in his first season. Mercedes is able to claim the title for constructors with Iwasa and Leclerc doing a great job keeping themselves high in the points, with once again Verstappen being let down by Perez. He's not even in the top 11 in the points. Drugovich has ended up making his way back into the top 10. Russell and Piastri doing a great job for Ferrari. Lawson and Albon doing amazing. Lawson also scoring a win for Aston Martin. So Aston Martin finding a great driver out of Liam Lawson at this point. As we move into the off-season, Leclerc retires from Formula 1. And Verstappen, after losing the championship with McLaren, jumps back over to Mercedes, with Russell joining McLaren, meaning Williams joins in F1 and joins Ferrari. But Iwasa gets outed halfway through the year out of his Mercedes ride, meaning Sergio Perez joins back alongside Verstappen once again, meaning Iwasa joins McLaren. Ricciardo ends up taking the spot at Red Bull, reuniting him and Red Bull together, and him and Norris becoming teammates again, meaning Stroll is a part of Williams. And Williams, not the team, the driver, gets outed halfway through the year in favor of Alexander Albon joining Ferrari, meaning Vasseur joins for Aston Martin. As we move into the end, second to last season, Max Verstappen back on top with a dominant season with 501 points over second place with 310 points, which is Iwasa. With 13 wins and 20 podiums, Max Verstappen dominates. But once again, Sergio Perez is nowhere to be found in the points, meaning McLaren wins the Constructors' Championship. Aston Martin moves up to 3rd, with Liam Lawson putting up great points and Vasseur also putting up some good points in half of a season. Pourchaire puts Alfa Romeo inside the top 10 with points, which is insane. That team has been awful this entire time. With Fittipaldi scoring 2 wins is P11, Sargent scoring no wins with 6 podiums goes down to 4th. As we move to the final driver changes, Lance Stroll retires from Formula 1, which is a day that we're all hoping for soon. In his spot at Williams, Logan Sargent rejoins his old team after being outed for 0 wins in the season for Toro Rosso. Meaning, the Fittipaldi brothers are now teammates. Enzo Fittipaldi joins his brother Toro Rosso for the final season. And another move, Iwaza is outed from his McLaren ride. Perez joins over there. Norris joins Verstappen. And Iwaza joins Red Bull. But halfway through the year, Drugovich loses his ride with Williams. And Novalok, however you pronounce it, I've never seen this kid's name before in my life, takes his spot in Williams. For sure is outed from Aston Martin to be replaced by Drugovich. Then, Iwasa once again gets outed out of his seat after doing great for them. Logan Sargent rejoins the Red Bull family, but now a part of Red Bull itself, with Iwasa taking his spot in Williams. As we move into the final point standings for 2032. Sadly, I lost all the points and stuff because this is my first time doing it and I didn't realize what happens. So I have the order, but I don't have the points and everything. Enzo Fittipaldi in his rookie season is your world champion for Toro Rosso with the brand new rebranded colors. With the brighter blue with the silver instead of the gold. Verstappen finishes P2, Norris P3, Russell P4, Liam Lawson P5, Iwasa P6, Piastri P7, Drugovich P8, Pietro Fittipaldi P9, Logan Sargent after leaving the team that won the championship ends up only getting 10th with the actual full Red Bull team. Yuki Tsunoda 11th and Daniel Ricciardo 12th. So a very interesting season for Verstappen to lose to a rookie. And for the last thing, we're going to go over the champions we saw from every season. Because it was a minute since we kind of thought about it. Lewis Hamilton won in 2023, giving his 8th world championship, making him the leader of most championships in all time of F1, but he retires afterwards. 2024, Fernando Alonso puts Aston Martin on the board with winning 10 races and wins the Drivers' Championship, and then retires as well. 2025 saw Lando Norris take the championship over his teammate, which following year Sergio Perez takes it over Lando Norris. Then Max Verstappen joins Mercedes and wins the championship the following year. Then it goes to Logan Sargent being a part of Toro Rosso. Then Max Verstappen wins his 4th title in 2029. Logan Sargent wins again in 2030. Max Verstappen once again on top of the board in 2031. And for the final season that we were able to do, Enzo Fittipaldi with the rebranded Toro Rosso wins the final championship over Max Verstappen. That's gonna make it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and check out all the links in the description. Obviously, I want to keep doing this with a different thing, and it's gonna get better. Like I said, this is the first time trying it. I really like doing this. This was very interesting to do. But you guys hitting the like button, subscribing lets me know that this is what you guys want to see. I love doing it, but it is up to you guys if this happens. Make sure to like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Join the Discord. This is Saxy signing out. See you guys next time. Bye, guys.